Poisoning your weapons can be really handy. I like to use the Dollmaker Potion, which I'll get to in a second, but you can apply poisons in different ways. I've shown you how you can poison pots, but you can also poison arrows and swords. So we poison these bolts, for example, and then I'm basically one-shotting these enemies with them, doing a lot of damage quite quickly and easily, which is really nice. So I want to quickly show you how to craft the highest quality of the Dollmaker Potion, which is a poison. It's fairly straightforward. You just need 2 handfuls of Herb Paris and 1 of Valerian. So we're going to put spirits into the cauldron to start this process. Now I'd recommend making sure you've got fresh herbs where possible. If you use dried ones, you might not get the perfect setup here. But we're going to put 2 handfuls of Herb Paris into the spirits in the cauldron. And then I'd recommend just lowering the cauldron down onto the fire and obviously keeping an eye on the recipe if you're not too sure of what you're doing here. But we're going to flip the sand glass over and wait for it to boil. Now to optimize the process, you can at this point grab a handful of Valerian and chuck it into the mortar and pestle. Then turn the sand glass over, and on the second pass of the sand glass, you can then get away with grinding this if you're careful. You do have to time it well though. And then if you set the button to return the mortar and pestle back to the counter and flip the sand glass over again, because we need to boil the initial concoction 3 times before we do anything else. Wait for the sand glass to drain out now, and then just at that point, throw the ingredients into the mix. We then need to turn the sand glass over again because we're boiling it a 3rd time. Usually I'd recommend lifting the cauldron up at that point before you put the things in, so it's not boiling for too long, so you've got to be really careful with your timing if you try and optimize it like this, because we've got to boil this twice, but what you don't want is 2.5 times or 3 times by accident because you did the animation for putting the mortar and pestle ingredients into the cauldron. Then lift it up, and at this point we're then going to use the file to distill it. So you're going to use the still in this instance. It's important to lift it up as well then, because otherwise if it's still boiling, it will then lead to it being overcooked and then it's ruined. The recipe won't be as good and you won't get the maximum quality. So if you follow the steps carefully, you should end up with Henry's Dollmaker Poison and have that unlocked, assuming you've got those alchemy skills already. And then with those brewed up, you should then be able to go out into the world with the poisons applied to your sword and to your arrows, and then make life a lot easier when dealing with humans, bandits, and other people. So a lot less hassle to kill off enemies. Make the most of the potions.